Welcome, deep divers. Today we're jumping into something that, well, it feels more relevant every single day, cybercrime.
Absolutely. It's everywhere.
And specifically, we want to look at the digital foundations it's all built on. In this age of just constant information, our mission here is to give you a real shortcut to understanding this critical, fast-moving landscape.
Yeah, cut through the noise a bit.
Exactly. We're going to unpack this whole world of digital offenses, look at its history, which is actually longer than you might think, explore the laws trying to keep up, and then really get under the hood.
See what makes it tick.
Yeah, the basic digital building blocks that make everything, including crime, possible online. What's really fascinating, I think, is where computer misuse started and just how different these crimes are from, traditional ones. Okay, let's dig in.
Let's do it.
So first things first, let's define the playing field. What exactly is cybercrime?
Right. At its core, it's basically any criminal act that uses a computer or a network, either as the target, like attacking a system, or just as the tool to commit the crime, like using a computer for fraud.
So it's a big umbrella term then, covering lots of different things.
Huge umbrella. Everything from, sophisticated state-sponsored hacking that takes down power grids, right down to simple online scams trying to get your credit card details.
And alongside that, trying to manage it all, we have cyber laws.
Exactly. These are the legal frameworks, the rules designed specifically for this digital world. They aim to protect people, organizations, make sure data stays private, regulate e-commerce, all that stuff.
Got it. Now, you mentioned these crimes are different. How so? What makes them stand out from, say, robbing a bank the old-fashioned way?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Cybercrimes have, fundamentally, 4 characteristics that just change the game for law enforcement and for victims.
Okay, what are they?
First, they're borderless. Someone in, say, Eastern Europe can launch an attack that hits victims in North America, South America, Asia, all at the same time, instantly. And think about the legal nightmare that creates. Whose laws apply? Where do you prosecute? It's a massive challenge.
Right, jurisdiction, I see. What's next?
Second, anonymity. It's much easier to hide online. Perpetrators can use layers of tech VPNs, proxy servers, anonymizing networks to mask their real identity and location.
Making them ghosts, almost.
Pretty much. Makes detection, finding the actual person, incredibly difficult. Third, high speed and high volume.
The scale.
Exactly. A single attack, like releasing a virus or a ransomware strain, can hit millions of computers simultaneously. The speed and scale are just unparalleled compared to physical crime.
Okay, and the last one?
And finally, a lack of traditional physical evidence. In a physical crime scene, you have fingerprints, DNA, footprints maybe.
Tangible clues.
Right. In cybercrime, the evidence is digital. It's data, and data can be wiped, altered, encrypted, poof, gone.
Or just hidden really well.
Or hidden incredibly well. So you need highly specialized digital forensic skills and tools just to find and preserve it. It fundamentally changes how investigations work.
Wow. Borderless, anonymous, fast, and digitally ephemeral. That really does paint a picture of why this is such a tough nut to crack.
It completely shifts the paradigm, yeah.
So thinking about that shift, when did this move from just, digital messing around to actual organized crime? Was it like a switch flicked or more gradual?
Oh, definitely gradual. And it's tied directly to how computers themselves evolved. If you go way back to the early stages, like the 1960s, 1970s.
Ancient history in tech terms?
Right. The first kind of computer misuse involved phone phreaks, remember them?
Vaguely, yeah. Messing with phone lines.
Exactly. Manipulating telephone systems, often just for kicks, to make free calls, explore the network. It was more about curiosity, maybe a bit of a technical challenge, than causing real harm.
Like digital graffiti artists, maybe?
Kind of, yeah. And you had things like the Creeper program in 1971, often called the first computer worm. But again, it was more experimental, mischievous, not really malicious in the way we think of malware today.
Okay, so playful beginnings?
Yeah.
Then what?
Then came the 1980s and the rise of personal computers. Suddenly, computers weren't just in labs or big corporations, they were in homes, small businesses.
Everywhere.
Exactly. And that explosion created a much bigger playground. This is when we saw the first real computer viruses emerge, like the brain virus in '86.
I remember that, for IBM PCs.
That's the one. Targeted the boot sector. And this era also saw the rise of bulletin board systems, BBSs, and early hacking groups. Still a mix of curiosity, exploring boundaries, maybe getting a bit of digital street cred.
But the potential for something more serious was growing.
Definitely. And then came the internet age. the 1990s through the 2000s, the internet goes mainstream, connects everyone.
It connects all those vulnerable PCs.
Precisely. The game changed completely. Hacking started shifting. It wasn't just about showing off skills anymore. It became increasingly about financial gain.
Ah, the profit motive kicks in.
Big time. This is when spam became a plague, denial of service attacks started taking websites offline, and phishing scams trying to trick you into giving up passwords or money became common threats.
Right, the early days of email scams.
Exactly. Which leads us pretty much to the modern era, say 2010s to now.
Where things feel much more serious.
Oh, absolutely. Cybercrime now is a highly sophisticated, highly organized, multi-billion-dollar global industry. We're talking advanced persistent threats, APTs, these long-term stealthy intrusions, often backed by nations.
Wow.
We're talking devastating ransomware attacks that cripple hospitals and businesses. State-sponsored cyber warfare is a reality. And social media gets weaponized for propaganda, large-scale harassment, election interference.
It's a completely different beast from the phone freaks.
Absolutely. If you connect the dots, you see this clear, relentless escalation, from curious tinkering to a complex global threat that's constantly adapting, constantly finding new ways to exploit technology, often faster than we can build defenses.
Which is a scary thought. So given this escalation, this complexity, what does it all mean for the legal systems trying to keep up? It feels like they must be constantly playing catch-up.
That's a huge part of the problem. It is a constant game of catch-up. Technology evolves so quickly, and criminals adapt instantly. Laws, by nature, move much more slowly.
So beyond just writing new laws, what are the big hurdles? Is it enforcing them across borders? Is it getting international agreement? Or maybe just the legal world understanding the tech well enough?
It's really all of the above. Internationally, there have been efforts. The big one is the Council of Europe Convention on Cybercrime, usually called the Budapest Convention.
Okay, what'd that do?
It was the first major international treaty aimed specifically at internet and computer crime. Its main goals are to get countries to harmonize their national cybercrime laws, improve how investigations are done, and this is key boost cooperation between nations.
Trying to tackle that borderless problem we talked about.
Exactly. Create a sort of common legal language and framework so countries can work together more effectively against cybercriminals wherever they are.
Makes sense. And what about specific countries? You mentioned India earlier.
Right. India's main law here is the Information Technology Act. 2000, the IT Act, 2000. Its purpose was twofold. Give legal recognition to electronic transactions to help e-commerce grow, and also to directly tackle cybercrimes.
Okay, so what are some key parts of that act?
Well, there are several important sections you should know about. Section 43, for instance, deals with penalties for damaging computer systems, unauthorized access, downloading data without permission, things like that. The penalty can be quite steep, up to 1 crore rupees.
Wow, okay. Serious penalties.
Then there's Section 66. This is the main one, defining computer-related offenses, essentially hacking with intent to cause wrongful loss or damage. It was later amended to explicitly include acts of cyberterrorism, too.
Cyberterrorism, okay.
Now, a really crucial one to mention is Section 66A. Or rather was. It dealt with sending offensive messages electronically.
Ah, I remember hearing about that one. Controversial.
Hugely controversial. It was widely criticized for being vague and potentially infringing on free speech online. And importantly, India's Supreme Court actually struck it down, repealed it in 2015.
So 668 is gone.
Gone. Which really highlights that tension, doesn't it? The balancing act between fighting crime online and protecting fundamental rights like free expression.
Definitely. What else is in the act?
You also have Section 66B, which covers dishonestly receiving stolen computer resources or communication devices, like knowingly buying a stolen phone or laptop. And Section 67 deals with publishing or transmitting obscene material in electronic form.
Right.
And it's worth noting, the act wasn't static. The Information Technology Amendment Act, 2008, brought significant changes. It added new offenses like identity theft, cheating by personation using computer resources, and cyberterrorism, as we mentioned, and generally increased punishments.
So it evolved. But the big question remains, doesn't it? You touched on it with 66A. How effectively can laws keep up with tech that changes seemingly overnight and criminals who are incredibly inventive?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? It's a constant struggle.
It really is. And, to even begin understanding how these crimes work, why they're so effective, why the laws struggle, you really need to grasp the basics, the fundamental concepts of computers and the internet.
Absolutely. It's like trying to understand warfare without knowing anything about the battlefield, weapons, the terrain.
Exactly. You need to know the ground you're standing on.
Yeah.
So let's start right at the beginning. Computer basics.
The absolute core, an electronic device that manipulates information, data, and the two key parts are hardware.
The physical bits, keyboard, screen, the chips inside, things you can actually touch.
Right, and software, the programs, the instructions, the operating system, the apps, the stuff that tells the hardware what to do.
And vulnerabilities, the weaknesses attackers exploit, they can be in either, right? Hardware or software.
Both. Flaws in chip design, bugs in code, insecure configurations. Problems can exist at every single layer, and attackers are always looking for those weak points.
Okay, but a single computer isn't usually the main target, is it? It's how they're connected.
Precisely. Cybercrime flourishes in networks. These are just groups of interconnected computers. Could be a small local area network, LAN, like in your home or office.
Connecting your laptop, printer, maybe your phone.
Yep. Or it could be a massive wide area network, WAN, spanning huge distances. And the biggest WAN of all,
The internet.
the internet itself. And every single connection, every router, every switch, every packet of data flowing through these networks, it's a potential point for interception, for attack, for infiltration.
So network security is crucial.
Foundational. Misconfigured firewalls, weak passwords on routers, unpatched vulnerabilities, and network software criminals exploit all of these to get inside, steal data, or launch attacks like denial of service to just shut things down.
Right. Okay, let's zoom back into the individual computer for a second. When you press that power button, what actually happens first?
Magic of the boot up. The very first thing is the BIOS, basic input-output system. Or on newer machines, UEFI.
Okay, what's that?
It's firmware, software embedded right onto a chip on the motherboard. Its job is to wake everything up. It runs text on the hardware, that's the power on self-test, or POST, and then its main task is to find and load your operating system, like Windows or Mac OS, from the hard drive into memory.
So it's the gatekeeper, basically.
Yeah.
Getting things started.
Exactly, the very first code that runs.
Which makes it
Target.
a very attractive target for sophisticated attackers.
Yeah.
If they can compromise the BIOS or UEFI, maybe with something called a bootkit, they can embed malicious code that runs before your operating system even loads.
Wow, so it's hiding underneath everything else.
Deep down, it gives them persistent control. It's incredibly hard to detect, super hard to remove. It's nasty stuff, often used for espionage or long-term control of the system.
Okay, scary. So the BIOS loads the OS. Where does it load it into?
Into computer memory, specifically RAM, random access memory.
RAM, I've heard of that. That's like the computer's short-term workspace. Perfect analogy. It's where the computer holds the data and program instructions it's actively working on right now. It needs to be super fast so the processor isn't waiting around.
That's temporary, right?
Key characteristic. It's volatile. Turn the power off, everything in RAM disappears. Gone.
So how does that relate to cybercrime?
Well, two main ways. For investigators doing digital forensics, it means capturing what's in RAM doing a memory dump can be crucial, but you have to do it before the machine is shut down or that evidence vanishes.
Time pressure.
Exactly. And for attackers, they love RAM too. There's a whole class of malware designed to run entirely in memory without ever writing itself to the hard drive.
Why would they do that?
To evade detection. Traditional antivirus software is often focused on scanning files stored on the disk. Malware running only in RAM can be much harder to spot, and once the computer reboots,
It's gone.
the primary trace might be gone, making analysis harder. Very stealthy.
Okay, so RAM is the fast temporary workspace. What about storing things long-term?
For that, you need non-volatile storage devices. Devices that remember data even when the power is off.
Like hard drives.
Exactly. Traditional hard disk drives, HDDs with their spinning magnetic platters, newer solid-state drives, SSDs, which are much faster, even older stuff like...
Floppy disks. Do those still exist?
Barely. But yeah, floppy disks, CD-ROMs, DVDs, optical media, they all fall into this category. They hold data persistently.
And this is where most of our files live, right?
Yeah.
Documents, photos, the OS itself.
Yeah. And that makes these devices prime targets. This is the data attackers want to steal in a data breach. It's the data they encrypt in a ransomware attack. It's where they might hide malware that does persist across reboots. Or sometimes these devices themselves, like a USB stick, can be the vector used to introduce malware onto a system in the first place.
Got it. Hardware, software, boot process, memory, storage, that covers the computer itself.
Mm-hmm.
But how does it talk to the rest of the world? How does the internet actually work? Let's start with finding websites. How does typing www.example.com actually get you there?
Ugh, the magic of the domain name system, or DNS. You nailed the analogy earlier. It really is the internet's phone book.
Translating names into numbers.
Exactly. Computers don't understand www.example.com. They need a numerical IP address, something like 192.0.2.1, to find the right server on the internet. DNS is the system that does that translation automatically behind the scenes billions of times a day.
So without DNS.
The internet as we know it basically wouldn't work. You'd have to remember strings of numbers for every site. But because it's so fundamental,
It's another target.
absolutely critical target, attackers can use techniques like DNS spoofing or cache poisoning to manipulate that phone book. They trick your computer into going to a fake website instead of the real one.
Like a fake bank login page.
Classic example, perfect for phishing. Or they might launch massive distributed denial of service, DDoS attacks against the DNS servers themselves. If you take down the phone book, nobody can look up numbers and large parts of the internet become unreachable.
Wow, okay. What about email? We all use it constantly.
Electronic mail. Seems simple, right? Sending and receiving messages. But it relies on specific protocols. SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, is generally used for sending email. And IMAP, or POP3, are protocols your email client uses to retrieve messages from the mail server.
And the risks there.
Huge. Email is still the #1 delivery method for phishing scams. Those fake emails trying to trick you into clicking malicious links or giving up credentials.
We've all seen those.
Yeah. And it's also central to business email compromise, BEC. This is a massive fraud problem where criminals impersonate executives or vendors via email to trick employees into wiring money to fraudulent accounts. Costs businesses billions. Understanding SMTP, IMP, how email headers work, helps understand how these scams are pulled off and how to spot them.
Right, so email is one part of the internet. What about the World Wide Web, www itself, the websites we browse?
Good distinction. The www is the system of interlinked hypertext documents, web pages that you access via the internet. They're not quite the same thing, though we often use the terms interchangeably.
Got it. And what makes the web work?
3 core technologies, really. HTML, hypertext markup language, is the code used to structure and create the web pages themselves. HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, is the protocol used to request and transfer those pages from the web server to your browser. And the web browser, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, whatever, is the software that interprets the HTML and displays the page for you.
And I'm guessing attackers target all three.
You bet. They can inject malicious scripts into seemingly legitimate web pages using HTML, that's cross-site scripting, XSS, a very common attack. They can eavesdrop on HTTP traffic if it's not encrypted. That's why HTTPS is so important, to steal passwords or session cookies.
Right, the little padlock icon.
Exactly. Flaws in the web browsers themselves are constantly being found and exploited to deliver malware directly to your computer. And sometimes malware uses HTTP as a hidden communication channel, a command and control C2 channel, to talk back to the attacker's servers, receive instructions, and send stolen data.
Okay, so the web itself is a complex battlefield. What about building websites? You mentioned website creation concepts.
Right. Modern websites aren't just static pages. They often use forms for you to input data login boxes, search bars, contact forms. They use client-side scripting, mainly JavaScript, to make the pages interactive in your browser without constantly reloading.
Things happening dynamically on the page.
Exactly. And many websites today are database-driven. Think e-commerce sites, social media, news sites. The content isn't hard-coded in HTML. It's pulled dynamically from a database on the server based on who you are or what you search for.
And each of these adds more potential problems.
More potential vulnerabilities, yes. Those forms. Prime targets for injection attacks, like SQL injection, where an attacker types malicious database commands into a search box or login field to try and trick the backend database into revealing sensitive information.
Like usernames and passwords from the database.
Exactly, or credit card numbers. JavaScript, while great for user experience, can be exploited for those XSS attacks we mentioned, or used to fingerprint your browser for tracking or targeting, and those database-driven websites. The databases themselves are Fort Knox. They hold the crown jewels.
Customer data, financial info.
All of it. Compromising that database in a data breach is often the ultimate goal for attackers. Millions of records stolen in one go. And finally, you have web commerce, e-commerce itself.
Online shopping, basically.
Buying and selling online, yes, but also electronic fund transfers, online banking, supply chain management systems, any business done electronically over networks. And obviously where the money is, the criminals follow. Skimming credit card details, hijacking accounts, creating fake storefronts. E-commerce fraud is rampant.
So understanding all these layers, hardware, software, networks, protocols like DNS, HTTP, email, how websites are built and transact business, it really is fundamental.
It's absolutely critical for you, the listener, to grasp these basics because it's these very systems, these protocols, these layers of technology that cybercriminals exploit. Knowing the foundations helps you understand the threats and hopefully how to better protect yourself.
What a journey we've really taken today. We started with just defining cybercrime, looking at its unique, borderless, anonymous nature. Then we traced its history, right? From those early phone freaks
Simple mischief.
to the incredibly complex, organized global threat it is today. We looked at the laws, like the Budapest Convention internationally and India's IT Act, trying desperately to keep pace.
A constant challenge.
And finally, we really did go under the hood, peeling back the layers on computers, networks, the internet itself, DNS, email, the web, how sites are built, the foundational tech that makes it all run. Hopefully you now have a much clearer, more concise picture of cybercrime from all these angles.
Yeah, connecting the dots from the tech to the crime to the law.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, to leave you with something to think about.
Considering everything we've discussed, that borderless nature, the anonymity, the sheer speed of cybercrime, coupled with how fast the underlying technologies themselves are evolving, constantly changing, what do you think is actually the single greatest challenge ahead? For society, for our laws, for us as individuals, what's the biggest hurdle in securing our digital future effectively?